Hello everyone, today we are going to learn Chapter 12, Managing Economic Exposure and Translation Exposure. The learning objectives include 1. Explain how an MNC's economic exposure can be hedged. 2. Explain how an MNC's translation exposure can be hedged. Economic exposure represents the impact of foreign exchange rate fluctuation on a firm's future cash flows. An MNC must measure its exposure to each currency in terms of its cash inflow and cash outflow. There are some possible strategies to hedge economic exposure: pricing policy, hedging with forward contracts, purchasing foreign supplies, financing with foreign funds, revising operations of other units. Translation exposure occurs when each subsidiary's financial data is translated to its home currency for consolidated financial statement. Hedging with a forward contract, transaction exposure can be hedged with a forward or future contract. The limitations of hedging translation exposure include inaccurate earnings forecasts, inadequate forward contract for some currencies, accounting distortions, increased transaction exposure. Now we come to the conclusion of this chapter. Economic exposure can be managed by balancing the sensitivity of revenue and expenses to exchange rate fluctuation. To accomplish this, however, the firm must first recognize how its revenue and expenses are affected by exchange rate fluctuation. For some firms, revenue is more suspiciable. Those firms are now most concerned that their home currency will appreciate against the foreign currency, since the unfavorable effect on revenue will more than affect the favorable effect on expenses. Conversely, firms whose expenses are more sensitive to exchange rate than their revenue are most concerned that their home currency will depreciate against the foreign currency. When firms reduce their economic exposure, they reduce not only their unfavorable effects, but also the favorable effect if the home currency value moves in the opposite direction. Translation exposure can be reduced by selling forward the foreign currency used to measure a subsidiary's income. If the foreign currency depreciates against the home currency, the adverse impact on the consolidated income statement can be offset by the gain on the forward sale in that currency. If the foreign currency appreciates over the time period of concern, there will be a loss on the forward sale that is offset by a favorable effect on the reported consolidated earnings. However, many MNCs would not be satisfied with a paper gain that offset a cash loss.